Hey everyone! ChatGP Taylor aka Taylor here. Welcome back to the channel, and happy Halloween. Whether you're out trick or treating, giving out candy from your doorstep, or simply sitting on your couch and watching horror movies, Halloween means different things to different people. But I think we can agree that one of the best parts of Halloween is that we can all dress up in fun costumes. So in celebration of Halloween, today's video will go through each Disventure Camp camper from the first 3 seasons and what I think they will dress up as for this year's Halloween. And with that, let's get started. Before I begin, make sure to like and subscribe if this video is to your liking, and make sure to comment down below if there's anything that you would like to see going forward. And one more thing. I'm trying a bit of a different tone with this video. I'm not sure how to explain it, but when you see how I'm deciding on each costume, hopefully you'll understand how this video is different. Let's just say, don't take anything I say in this video too seriously. And I'm also going to use a different AI voice for the rest of this video to help emphasize this tone. It's just an experiment, and feel free to let me know your thoughts on the tone of this video in the comments section below when this is all over. And with that, let's finally begin.
I'm just going to go in an arbitrary order and start with Hunter. I think Hunter would dress up as the OnlyFans logo. Because considering how many haters Allie has on the internet, Hunter will probably be Allie's only fan left in the world when her career is finished. And speaking of Allie, let's talk about her next. I think Allie would dress up in a suit of armor and stand in front of a pillow fort. Because this way, she will finally get the chance to be a Fortnite. Going back to season 1, let's talk about Ashley. Ashley would probably just be a cowgirl. I mean, after all, she already has the outfit of a cowgirl. She could probably walk into town dressed like this and no one would think twice about her costume. And since we just talked about Ashley, let's talk about Will next. I could imagine Will dressing up like a cowboy. Given how close Ashley and Will are, I can imagine the two of them dressing up in a couple's costume, which in this case, is a cowboy and a cowgirl. How romantic. Moving on, let's continue with Alec. I think Alec would dress up as a member of the paparazzi. Because at least this way, he'll have an actual reason to follow a movie star around town without looking like a simp. And speaking of movie stars, let's talk about Riya. I actually think Riya would just dress as herself. Considering her fame and relative ego, she probably thinks she's iconic enough that people would want to dress as her. Granted, she would probably hire some bodyguards to keep her safe while she goes out. Moving on from Riya, we have one of her enemies, Aiden. Aiden would probably be a skunk. After all, his hair is already black and white, so all he needs to do is make a skunk suit and he's all set. Up next, let's talk about Aiden's boyfriend, James. I think James would dress up as James Bond. The costume is just a suit, but that's the point. That way when people ask James who he is, he can use the opportunity to plug his TikTok. Just imagine.
Who are you?
The name's Costa. James Costa. You can follow me at JamesCD.
Just seems like something he would want. Moving on from James, let's talk about one of his former enemies, Jake. I think Jake would dress up like a kindergartner's art project. Because just like Jake, you can make a lot of mistakes on a kindergartner's art project and most people will still praise you for trying. Following Jake, let's talk about his boyfriend, Tom. Tom would dress up like a cat. Because just like a cat, no matter how many times you try to call him, he's not going to respond. Seems fitting to me. Let's continue with one of Tom's closest friends, Gabby. I think Gabby would dress up as a serial killer. And no, that's not a typo. This version of a serial killer could very easily kill you, but because they're a sugary cereal, they're also very sweet. And I don't think that's a horrible description of Gabby, considering what we've seen Gabby do while on Disventure Camp. Following Gabby, let's talk about her girlfriend, Ellie. Ellie would dress up as a role of $1 million. Because let's face it, it's probably the closest that Ellie will ever get to being a millionaire. Sorry, Ellie. Next, let's talk about the camper that Ellie screwed over in All Stars, Lake. Lake would dress up like Jim Carrey. Now hear me out. Lake crumbled under the pressure in All Stars because she couldn't come up with a good lie to fight back against Ellie. So hopefully by channeling her inner Jim Carrey, she can finally become a good liar. Moving on to one of Lake's friends, it's Rosa Maria. I think Rosa Maria would be a kangaroo. Because I can just imagine Rosa taking Sophia around the neighborhood for Halloween by keeping her in a little pouch, just like a kangaroo. How cute! Next, let's finish the friendship trio by talking about Maggy. I think Maggy should dress up as a boxer. After all, we already know from episode 4 of season 2 that she has a strong punch, so I don't think people would bat an eye if they saw her dressed as a boxer. Now that we're done with Maggy, let's talk about her boyfriend, Kai. Kai's costume is extremely simple. Kai would be a cloud. Because let's face it, a cloud is probably the only thing in the world that's as high as Kai. Makes sense to me. Following Kai, we have one of Kai's enemies, Yul. Yul would dress up like a cone of mint chocolate chip ice cream. In my opinion, mint chocolate chip ice cream is very divisive. Some people absolutely love it, and some people absolutely hate it. Some people think that it's refreshing, and some people think it's so repulsing that they never want to see it again. And I think that fits how the Disventure Camp community views Yul as a whole. Moving on, we have one of Yul's enemies, Connor. I think Connor would dress up as a stage director. Because this way, he'll be able to tell someone to break a leg instead of breaking his own leg. Or his ankle. But you get what I mean, right? From the oldest camper in Season 2 to the second oldest, let's talk about Karol. Karol would probably dress up like an animal tamer and bring a crocodile with her or something. I get the impression that Karol wouldn't enjoy giving out candy to kids, so getting to drag a crocodile with her around town is probably the only way she could enjoy the holiday. And who knows? Maybe the crocodile will terrify some kids and Karol can get some candy that way. Let's continue with another Season 2 early boot, Oliver. I think Oliver would dress up as a ghost, because he was kind of a ghost in the All-Star season. I remember quite a few people in the Disventure Camp community talking about how Oliver was missing during the first half of Season 3, and how they were happy to see that he was alive at the end of Episode 9. So to have him be a ghost that is sort of see-through would help push that narrative along. From one early boot to another, let's talk about Drew. I think Drew would dress up as a mime. After all, Drew already doesn't talk verbally, so all he needs is the makeup and outfit, and then he's all set. Seems like an easy pick. Next, let's talk about the person who got Drew eliminated in Season 1, Grett. To be honest, I wasn't sure about what costume Grett would wear. But then I realized that it's obvious. Grett will dress up as the one, the only, Grettnana. It makes no sense, but it's just absurd enough to be perfect for Grett. Moving from one British camper to another, let's talk about Nick. This one might seem weird, but let's have Nick dress up like Lill. Nick said in Episode 4 that it genuinely frightened him that Lill handles kids. And since Halloween is all about being scary and frightening, let's have him dress up like someone who he thought was frightening. Just don't let Alec see Nick wearing those shorts. Ooh la la. And speaking of Lill, let's talk about her costume next. For Lill, we're going a bit generic by having her dress like a witch. I don't know if Lill would like the costume, but I know Fiore would, considering how Fiore said in Episode 5 of Season 1 that Lill had an ugly witch face. Sorry Lill, but I'd rather side with Fiore on this one. She scares me. Speaking of Fiore, let's talk about her next. I think Fiore would dress like Azula from Avatar, The Last Airbender. After Fiore quoted a line from Azula in Episode 9 of Season 1, I think it's somewhat reasonable to compare the two of them. And I'm pretty sure Fiore already has the costume from a custom greeting, so it's an easy way to save money, too. With Fiore out of the way, let's talk about another Season 1 finalist, Miriam. I think Miriam would dress up like a saint. No, this is not an old person joke, but I wouldn't blame you if you thought that way. I just think that Miriam has to be a saint to support Jake's mistakes for as long as she has. Granted, Jake seems to be okay now, but the road to get here was really long. Moving on, let's talk about Miriam's canoeing partner in Season 1, Dan. I hate to repeat an answer, but I think Dan would follow Oliver's lead and dress like a ghost. During the airing of Season 3, I remember a rumor that was circulating around the community that claimed that Dan was dead. I'm not sure how that rumor came to be, but being a ghost would help play into that rumor. And besides, considering how non-impactful he was during Season 1, being a ghost might explain a few things. And to end the list, let's talk about Tess. This one took a lot of thought, but in the end, I decided that the perfect costume for Tess isn't really a costume. She would just carry a metal suitcase full of fake money and wear a large gold medal that says, "Winner of Disventure Camp All-Stars." Halloween is all about being scary, and considering how many people online hate Tess for being a therapist and a support character during All Stars, I don't think there's anything scarier to them than having Tess being named the winner of Disventure Camp All Stars. And it's even scarier for them considering that this timeline could have almost happened if Jared just stuck with the first version of All Stars. Truly a costume worthy of living up to the terrifying and frightening reputation of Halloween.
And that about does it for this video. Feel free to leave your thoughts on my costume choices for each camper down below. If you have better ideas for costumes for the campers, feel free to comment them down below as well. And most importantly, feel free to give me your feedback on the tone that I chose for this video. I've never made a video with this kind of tone before, so please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like the video, click subscribe if you really like the video, and for some ending words of wisdom. You don't need to spend a lot of money to make a scary costume. As it turns out, some heavy boots, some dark pants, a large coat, and an old hockey mask are all you need to look like a stereotypical horror movie killer at a summer camp. Thank you, and farewell.